one of the things that is synonymous with Brands Hatch for me personally is Formula Ford 1600, and that's what we've got now, the Avon Tyres National Championship. For those of you, again, not familiar with it, this is really traditionally the first step on the car racing ladder in days gone by for youngsters wanting to make their way up into the heady heights and expensive heights of Formula One. Brands is the spiritual home, as I mentioned, for many, many years, the home here of the Formula Ford Festival. We're looking forward to one of those a little bit later on in the season. Anniversary this year, so it's going to be a super event. These days it's a mix of the young chargers wanting to come through and maybe some of the older drivers who stay with Formula Ford. The big beauty of it, in total contrast to what we've already seen today thus far, obviously our focus on caterhams and single make racing, this is very much the antithesis of that, because Formula Ford, unlike most of the other categories on the way to F1, offers a multi-manufacturer sport. So there are lots of different teams, but lots of different chassis to earn the crown of national champion. We had a race yesterday that was won by Alex Walker. Alex is second in the championship. Let's see if we can grab a quick word with Alex as he gets his thoughts together for the race today. Alex, first of all, congratulations on taking that win. Thoughts and reflections on that, if you would.
Yeah, so obviously yesterday went pretty well. Similar conditions today, so we're just working on trying to repeat the same performance yesterday in today's race.
It's a bit of a rivalry because you've got your main championship rival. You're currently second in the standings, and Max Desterson, who leads the championship at the minute, alongside you. So is this one of these great Formula Ford 1600 rivalries that we've seen over the years?
Yeah, possibly. Obviously Chris is in the picture as well in third, and it's just kind of been us three all year really, so obviously we've come to this round all really close. I gained a few points yesterday, so we'll see where we are at the end of the round, but yeah, it's looking to be good.
Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Chris, who you're referring to. That's Chris Middlehurst, as you say, third in the championship, and he was fourth in the race yesterday. But as I look at the results, and on my introduction, just saying Formula Ford is wonderful in terms of the number of different... You're racing in the Spectrum, and you're up against the Ray. How much pride is there racing for different manufacturers?
Yeah, exactly. It also... It's quite good because obviously everyone has their own different ways of driving these cars, so there's no set way to go faster than them, so it makes the racing really excitable. And yeah, it's obviously great to be running with Kev, the only team running the Spectrum in this country, so it is quite a proud thing.
Well, that's great to hear. Wish you well for the race. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Good luck for the race. So thanks, Alex Walker. We're going to have a word with Max Esterton, who is the championship leader. So follow me over here. We had a quick word with Max before, or just as he got in, and I know he's happy to talk to us. So Max, championship leader, congratulations on that. I was just saying to Alex, is this that you two have?
It's turning out to be, so we'll see how this race goes. But
well, good luck for the race. You've been called out already, so we'll let you go. Max Esterton there, the car's responding to the whistle which is blown, the engines are starting up, and that means it's time to hand you back to Scott Woodward, who's in the commentary box.
Thank you very much, Richard, and yes, welcome to our second race of the weekend for the exceptional Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship. It is one of those last few championships where it is pretty much a multi-chassis single-seater championship. When you see the racing, they are all as evenly matched as you like. It's always down to just the setup and also driver skill as well. It was a thrilling race that we had yesterday, which, as Richard alluded to, was won by Alex Walker, but his main title rivals Max Esterton and Chris Middlehurst were in close attention in second and fourth respectively. In third place was last year's festival champion, as in Formula Ford Festival, that being Rory Smith. He finished third. Of course, watch out for Thomas Mills, who is the son of team boss Kevin Mills, as in Kevin Mills Racing. He will start fifth on the grid after his race. So, cars are making their way to the grid. It was an absolute thriller yesterday. Some brilliant, typical, classic Formula Ford racing that we had all the way through from start to finish. And it was a really close finish where Alex Walker managed to pull away, but that scrap for second place between Esterton, Smith and Middlehurst went right down to the flag in the end. We did have an incident yesterday, which I should mention there was an amended result, and it was a 10-second penalty for Benjamin Cochran for causing the beginning of the collision, which eventually saw poor Carter Williams, who eventually had his car get a little bit airborne over the top of somebody's car. Thankfully, he seems to be okay. We do believe that we have got, I think, at least one of their cars still on the grid. I think that should be Lucas Romanek, I believe. Unfortunately, Carr's not being able to take the start for the 2 races today, but he'll be back out for the next time at Alton in around about a month's time. So we're getting set for our second race. We'll be able to take you through the grid in terms of how they line up, and it's pretty much as a result of the yesterday's first race in terms of their position. So Alex Walker then starts on pole position with Max Estes alongside him on the front row. 2 of the 3 championship contenders, then Rory Smith and Chris Middlehurst, that 3rd championship contender, backing 4th on the grid. Thomas Mills and Colin Queen then come next for Kevin Mills Racing and Low Dempsey Racing in row 3. Row 4 is the Cornish Express, multiple-time festival winner Joey Foster, backing 7th alongside former W Series racer Megan Gilkis for Kevin Mills. Then it's Jamie Sharp, Anglesey race winner, alongside Ben Tinkler, who's the top club class car in the Don Harpen prepared 2009 race chassis. Then it's James Tucker, also in club class, alongside Benjamin Cochran. He starts back in 12th today, thanks to that 10-second penalty post-race. Then row 7 sees Paul Tucker and Terry Walkinshaw on the grid in 13th and 14th. And then at the back of the field should be, I believe, Noel Robinson and Lucas Romanek, who we mentioned yesterday, has changed teams. He was running for most of the season with Kevin Mills Racing for the Spectrum, but he has now decided to race in the Oldfield Motorsport Van Diemen. Andre the Fond also at the back of the grid as well, as he was caught up in that mix at Druids in the early stages as well. And as we said, the one car we don't have sadly is Carlton Williams, who just really has had some really terrible luck throughout the season. And hopefully he takes a turn in the second half of the year as we go towards the last few venues on the calendar. We've only got 2 more rounds of meetings left to go, with Alton Park in September supporting the British GT Championship, and then Stettton in early October to round off the 2021 season. Before this, we've been to Donington Park in May. It's very mixed conditions. We had incredibly wet conditions for the first race on the Saturday, and then we had 2 dry races on the Sunday. Then the former National Formula Fords ventured to Knock Hill, and they joined the Scottish Formula Fords, where they had 2 races in one day, one of which was involved with the David Leslie Trophy, which Chris Middlehurst won. And then you had a triple header of races at Silverstone on the national circuit. And last time out, they were at Anglesey in again changeable conditions, where that man, Jamie Sharp, was able to take, at long last, his first National Formula Ford win. That'd been a long time coming since he'd switched across from British F4. He's been started out with Team Dolan, and then moved across to the Andy Brickles run BM Racing Squad. He's been able to pick up his pace and was looking pretty strong in qualifying yesterday with 4th on the grid. So the cars then make their way to the grid slot, just been weaving from side to side, and a few burnouts to get a bit of heat into the rear tyres and into the brakes as well. For identification, it's the white and blue Kevin Mills Spectrum on pole position on the left. That is Alex Walker, yesterday's race winner. The red car with the slightly pointier front nose, that is Max Estes on the outside of the front row of the grid. The red car with the white panel down the middle, that is Rory Smith, inside of row 2. Outside of row 2 is the white car with the orange stripe down the side, is Chris Middlehurst. And then watch for car in 5th position Thomas Mills in the second of the Kevin Mills Spectrums. All set for them for the second National Formula Ford race of the weekend. There's no better place to race Formula Ford than Brands Hatch, and let's see what race 2 provides. Red lights on, red lights out, and let's go racing at Brands Hatch. As the rain starts to fall here, 15 minutes of action. Decent start from Alex Walker initially. Max Estes tries to pull alongside him on the run towards Paddock Hill Bend. Rory Smith will slot into 3rd, but he's having a speculative look for P2 on Esterson. Turning their way up now, Paddock Bend through Harewood Hill. There's one car in the background's gone into the gravel. I think that's supposed to be Noel Robinson, but he's managed to track his way back through and into Druids for the first time. Walker leads, Estes in 2nd. It's Rory Smith in 3rd and Chris Middlehurst in 4th. Still in 5th position at the moment is Thomas Mills, but he's under threat from both Colin Queen and then the dark British Racing green car of Joey Foster, the Furman chassis. Make their way down Cooper Straight. This is certainly a sight which many people who love Formula Ford and the festival are familiar with. Oh, they're skating off the road, and off goes Joey Foster. He's been collected by Colin Queen. They're both skating off the road. Into the back of the tyres goes Foster. I think Queen will try and get going, or at least he was going to, unless he had damage on the right rear. And that car's going no further, I'm afraid. And I think it's possibly the fact that the rain starts to come down, it's caught everyone out. So there was hardly any grip into Surtees. It's both caught out Foster and Colin Queen as a result. And poor Colin Queen brings the car to the inside. He now realises the right rear suspension is damaged, and that's his race done already. That's really unfortunate. Meanwhile, the top 4 contenders, all in a scrap together already at the top of Druids into the hairpins on the second lap. It's then the top 3 in the title race, with last year's festival winner, out clambers Joey Foster. Well, that's gutting for Joey, of course. Bitterly disappointed after he's out at the end of the first lap. He'll try and regroup for the third race. There's yellow flags being waved. No signal of the safety car yet if it's being called. I'm looking at the safety car in my commentary box window. No lights on yet. But if there are lights on, it signals that we're going to get a safety car potentially. Now, Foster's car is quite far off the road up against the tyres. Then again, that is quite a high-speed exit of the corner through Surtees, so that might have drivers have to be quite a bit careful to make sure they're not going too quickly, and it might cause problems. Walker already trying to pull away at this early stage here. Is now diving up the inside and having a really big look. Was Rory Smith there on Max Esterson, trying to force him into a mistake. Now they make the climb up Halewood Hill again. Smith looking one side then the other. Colin Queen gesticulating, saying, which way do I go? Back to the pit lane? All right, then I'll go across the grass. So, whilst the leaders make their way back out of Druids, Alex Walker is charging away at this point in time. He's had a bit of a lean patch in terms of good fortunes in National Formula Ford since he took his last victory before yesterday. That was at Knock Hill when he shared wins with Chris Middlehurst. And before then, he was in really good form at Donington Park at the season opener, where he pulled away in both races in the dry. So now up the inside goes Rory Smith. Ooh, that'd be interesting. Now that, I don't know if that was in a yellow flag zone, because you still see Colin Queen's car there, and there were yellow flags. I didn't see the edge of the circuit, see where the yellow flags end, but Esterson, for the record, has at least got back past Rory Smith, so any advantage he may have had seems to have been nullified. If Rory Smith hadn't given that place back or hadn't lost it, then he possibly would have been in line, if he had undertaken the yellow flags, to possibly get himself a penalty for that. Up the inside for fourth goes Jamie Sharp. He's looking racy this morning already. Past the Team Dolan Van Diemen of Chris Middlehurst. Also in there too is Thomas Mills, who's having his first proper season of Formula Ford racing. No better teacher than his dad, team boss Kevin Mills Racing. Kevin Mills himself a prominent Formula Ford racer in his day. Spent many a lap racing Formula Ford at the Branch the Festival. Oh, and wide for the race leader, Alex Walker, all over the curbs. He slides sideways at Surtees. Somehow gathers it back up together again, and just about keeps it on the road. That would have given him a fright. The two BM Racing cars, meanwhile, are going to combat for third and fourth. Jamie Sharp, who is running a full season, whereas Rory Smith is dovetailing some selected National Formula Ford rounds with some running historic Formula 3. He's just getting himself back into the groove here. And he goes up the inside of Max Esterson, but Esterson will carry the momentum on the outside. And the Low Dempsey Racing Ray has got the edge. He's got his nose in front of the Druids. But for the inside line, Smith has got the job done, and he's into second place. Move complete. Now that one BM Racing car's got past, the next one might have a go as well. Chris Middlehurst and the Team Dolan run Van Diemen and the second Spectrum Thomas Mills. But now Esterson is really on the back foot here. I should mention that both Esterson and Smith are in contention for the Triple Crown. And what's that, you might ask? That's for 3 rounds, which are selected ones within the National Championship. It's a sub-championship between that. So drivers who race at run the race at Donington Park, Silverstone, and here at Brands Hatch score points towards that. And this is the final meeting for that particular sub-championship here at Brands Hatch. And whoever comes out on top of that will be effectively our first provisional champion of 2021. Of course, but that sits within the main national championship, which doesn't conclude, as we said, until Steston back in October. Leaders back into Druids. Now Rory Smith trying to close back in, trying to steal the victory here. So it's all closing up for third place downwards. Still, Esterson holding on to third. Rory Smith nibbling away at the gearbox of Esterson's car. Sweet was Jamie Sharp's car. Jamie Sharp in fourth. Rory Smith is back in second. Oh, there was contact. There was contact in the back. I think Jamie Sharp hit the back of Max Esterson's car. I saw the car jump up into the air. Chris Middlehurst looks round the outside of 1, out the outside of 2, gets past Sharp and also gets past Esterson. Yes, he's done it. Round the outside of McLaren through Clearways and Clark Curve. Middlehurst finds his way past both Sharp and Esterson, getting himself up into third place. But there was definitely contact between Esterson and Sharp just heading into Surtees. Esterson now looks to his right, finds Jamie Sharp there, and look at Thomas Mills. Gives him a nudge up the hill, quite literally. Bump draft up into Druids. Go on, Jamie, get on with it. And now as he just helps him through, which worked, he seemed to get him through. I'm not sure Jamie would have expected it, but Thomas gave him a little bit of a shove up the hill, which definitely helped Jamie complete that move. I'm sure we'll thank him later. Now it's Thomas Mills' turn now, 6th position. Oh, and both Walker and Smith very sideways through Surtees. That's either just the driving style, or there's possibly something down there as a legacy of what happened earlier on. Now, one driver to watch out for. Look at the black car, 156. That's Ben Tinkler. He's in the club class, and he's in there with the lead group. He's scrapping away with Andre Lafond, Megan Gilkis and Lucas Romanek. Now remember, Romanek was running in Kevin Mills Racing. Now he's gone past one of his former teammates as he wiggles around under braking but gets it stopped. He's gone past his ex-teammate Megan Gilkis. Now he's switched teams to Oldfield Motorsport for the rest of the season. Now he's going up the inside of Andre Lafond. So that's 1 place done, 2 places done. Now he's looking for Ben Tinkler. Can he get 3? Well, there's the scrap that's going on for 3rd, and the answer is not quite, but I think there's a bit of contact maybe in the rear end of Ben Tinkler's car. Romanek takes the wide line as Lafond tries to get him back on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. Now here comes Kevin Mills, and off the road goes Rory Smith. Rory Smith off the road at the grass, and that's going to be very tricky. But hold on a minute, he's got through. How's he done that? So they both must have scrabbled wide, and Rory Smith has gone across the grass, but he's gone through. That's astonishing. Now, one thing I have spotted, right, safety car's been deployed. Oh, off the road's got Megan Gilkis. Now, what's interesting, I wonder, is there some kind of fluid or something down at Surtees? Because a lot of cars are sliding wide and getting sideways and going off the road. Now, I don't know if it's a legacy of what happened back in the Caterham race just now, or whether it's just the fact it's been wet down there. It's one of the few places that hasn't dried properly. One thing I can tell you, the rain is coming down incredibly heavily. And because of that, not just because the safety car's been deployed, but they are tiptoeing around in these conditions. It really has caught them unawares. So the safety car's been deployed, 7 minutes to go. Now, there is a rule in the National Formula 4 Championship that on the first safety car, the clerk of the course does have the rights, in the regulations, to add an extra 5 minutes onto the race time. So the safety car may well give us an extra 5 minutes of Formula Ford racing and extend the overall time to 20 minutes. Well, as a result of what happened at Surtees, Rory Smith went off, and all of a sudden he came through, and then Alex Walker appeared in shot behind him. So, incredibly, it was one of the most bizarrest overtakes I've seen in quite a while. But Rory Smith does get through, and he is into the lead. Now, the weather is coming in pretty hard now. The rain is starting to melt down a bit harder at this point in time. And everyone will be out there in what is relatively a dry weather setup rather than wet weather. But the Avon tyres, which all the Formula 4s are fitted with, are essentially an all-weather tyre, so they can cope with wet conditions. They don't have specific wets they go onto. It's the same tyre for wet and dry conditions. But they make their way now behind the RunYourFleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car, which makes its appearance for the first time this weekend. Should give a shout out to RunYourFleet.com, who are the partners of this season with the BRSGC. Just a quick mention to them, because Run Your Fleet is the most cost-effective and flexible way to buy, lease and manage everything you need for your fleet of company vehicles through their managed fleet services, and from breakdown cover to fleet management, risk management and fleet funding. They've got latest telematics, rental and short lease options, every solution for fleet requirements. And so Run Your Fleet are the ones to talk to, and it's for them we have to give thanks not just for their support and their partnership, but for the supply of that wonderful Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car. So thank you to them for being a partner of the BRSEC and for providing us with our Jaguar safety car. So the rescue snatch vehicle is quickly hooking itself up to the roll hoop of Colin Queen's car, who I think didn't initially realise that the right rear suspension was that damaged, and now it seems to have fixed itself out. But look at the way the weather is changing. You can see the sheen starting to form on the circuit now, and the way these cars are they're trying to get heat in the tyres, but they're skating around on what is, this is the kind of conditions right now that they hate to have. Drivers either want it fully dry or fully wet when it comes to conditions, mainly because you know exactly which way you need to go with the setup. You can expect exactly what the conditions are going to be like. If the track is completely wet, you know what to expect. You know what line to take. You know how much grip you're likely to have. Same with the dry. When it's in between like this, when it's in the transition period of getting wetter and wetter, it's very slick. It's what they call intermediate weather. This is where it gets very tricky, because it takes a very good driver to have a very fine and deft touch behind the wheel of a car like this to be able to get the most out of it. And the fact is, there's a phase until more water comes onto the circuit. There's a phase in which the circuit becomes very slick, very slippery, and very treacherous, and it makes it very difficult for the drivers to judge what's going on. I'm also saying that you can see that the weather now coming down is absolutely horrid. So these drivers will have to contend a little bit more with some of the typical British summertime. So the extra 5 minutes that have been added on by the clerk of the course, as per the regulations, under the first safety car, have been produced. So that means now we have, at the moment, 8.5 minutes to go rather than 3.5 minutes. There is Colin Queen's damaged low-density Ray chassis. So that car will have to be recovered and fixed for race 3 later on this afternoon. But I'm guessing the drivers will be hoping that the weather conditions are much better. But at the moment, it's getting rather awful at the moment in terms of the weather. But I've seen Formula Fords, particularly here at Brands Hatch, race in worse weather conditions, and particularly at the festival. So these all-weather tyres on these Avon, these cars should be able to help. Now then, looks like the safety car has switched its lights off, which means that the Jaguar is going to head into the pit lane. It now means that Rory Smith becomes the safety car. He chooses when to get the race restarted. He'll back the pack up here through Surtees, and in between now and the run out of Clark Curve, he will then put his foot to the floor, get as much traction as he can in these damp, greasy conditions, and then get the race back underway. There's Paul Tucker, one of our club class runners. He's also deep in the pack, waiting for the race to get back underway, which does so now because Rory Smith has put his foot to the floor. He's pulled a small gap on Alex Walker, who slides around in a straight line, getting back onto the pit straight. And as the green flag flies, the racing gets back underway. Now they head under racing speeds effectively into the unknown, because the weather conditions will really be tricky for a lot of drivers to try and judge exactly where their turning points are. They had some wet conditions in qualifying yesterday. It was slightly damp, which dried out as the race went on in race 1 yesterday, but it's predominantly mostly dry as Alex Walker runs wide on the outside of Druids Corner. Now he's taking that wide line, the wet line in these conditions at the moment, but it hasn't benefited him too much because his main rivals, both Chris Middlehurst and Max Esterson, are trying to pounce quickly enough. And look at Jamie Sharp as well in the 89 car. He wants to get into play too. They're switching this way and that. Chris Middlehurst has managed to squeeze past Alex Walker into second, so he will start to charge after Rory Smith. There's a scrap for third on. So Walker now under pressure from Max Esterson, then from Jamie Sharp, and then followed by Thomas Mills. Also in there too is Ben Tinkler. In fact, no, it's James Tucker, I think. He's got past Ben Tinkler. He's passed both Lucas Romanek and Ben Tinkler. So James Tucker takes 2 positions on that lap. And you see there, Jamie Sharp was trying to move out to make a move, but it really wasn't on. He was, again, struggling for traction. We had that yesterday where some cars were really finding little to no grip on that bump. And, Alex Walker and Max Esterson almost came to blows there. And Alex Esterson had to have very quick hands to try and stop that car from sliding wide into the gravel. There goes Smith, Middlehurst. And there's a bit of a bump there from Max Esterson into the back of Alex Walker. They're interconnecting wheels. That's not going to work. And round goes Esterson. Round goes Max Esterson. Off onto the grass, just keeps it out of the tyres, or just nudges it in the end. That is one of the championship contenders in trouble. Max Esterson in trouble here at Brands Hatch, and that car, I'm afraid, on the wet grass is going no further. What drama here at Brands Hatch. 2 of the championship contenders are hitting troubles. It's plain sailing for Chris Middlehurst because he's carrying on, running wide, very wide, just keeping it on the road there with James Tucker. Rory Smith, meanwhile, this is a festival-like performance, just pulling away at the front and dominating in the lead of the race. One thing this will certainly help is Rory Smith's quest for the Triple Crown, because he's done the rounds at Donington Park and at Brands Hatch, and at Silverstone, and he's in contention with that with Max Esterson. And so this will certainly give him a massive haul of points. Oh, but poor Max Esterson. He got interlocked wheels with Alex Walker, and then just as he tried to get the power on, he was just in a very difficult position. Round he went. It was, I argue, it was possibly no one's fault, just getting caught up in the situation. And poor Max is getting out of the car. So at the very least, he's okay. There was no impact which might have caused him a problem physically, but that's a shame. Max will lose points on that. He'll certainly have to use that as a drop score come the end of the season when the championship totals are put together. So they're slithering around in these still very slick conditions. I think the rain either has abated quite a lot, but it's still falling in terms of a drizzle, or it's stopped completely, which is now giving us a very tricky, very slick and slippery road surface, which, given the fact it's still about 14 degrees out there, it's still relatively decent enough temperature to start warming up the circuit again and start to dry it out. There's Lucas Romanek, who again is one of several drivers who just cannot find grip over that little crest on the exit of Clark Curve, which is catching so many drivers out. There's Ben Tinkler, who at the moment, he was leading the club class, but he's now behind James Tucker. There's James in the 555 car. I think that livery is a bit of a tribute to the Lola Indy car which Nigel Mansell drove back in 93 and 94. It's got a very similar looking paint scheme. And that's Megan Gilchrist running wide there in the 49 car. She's now under pressure for Noel Robinson in the black and orange number 5. I think he's also being assisted by James Oldfield this weekend. And Megan Gilchrist is skating off the road. The young Canadian just about keeps it back on the road. He's getting passed by, I'm sure, rather bemused Benjamin Cochran, thinking, where did you come from? But Megan gets back on the road. She had a really good qualifying yesterday. Qualified in 8th position and finished 8th yesterday, so she's getting stronger behind the wheel of these Formula 4. She said it's, as you can imagine, quite a different car compared to the W Series Formula 3 based chassis that she's used to. Less power and less aerodynamic grip, and just less grip all round, but that's what makes Formula 4 such a brilliant proving ground for young drivers, and that Formula 4 as a single seater will give you lots of grounding in terms of grip. It will give you lots of low grip. It will give you lots of grounding in terms of racecraft, in terms of setting up a car purely on mechanical grip rather than aero. And it'll also teach you some crucial things like even manual gearboxes, because these days a lot of race cars have either paddle shifts or sequential shifters. There's not that many race cars left, if at all, in top level motorsport that have a manual gearbox, but it's quite a key thing to have because it will teach you things like heel and toe and how to rev match. And these are crucial things that you can learn and even use later in the year. You always used to say back in the day, for those go through British Formula 3, that you tell the drivers that have come through Formula 4, because they were the ones that had that grounding in single seaters and knew how to handle a car and set the car purely on mechanical grip first, and then dial in the aero as the aero started to come on more and more through the years. That's where it came through at its strongest. Formula 4 still going strong since it started back in 1967, and as Richard alluded to, this is effectively the home of Formula Ford. Its first ever Formula Ford race took place here at Brands Hatch, and of course it's the home of the Formula Ford Festival that's been here since 1976. And this year, of course, is the 50th running, which that man, Rory Smith, was last year's winner. The most recent name to be added to the list of alumni that's won over the years. I'm sure he'll be back to try and do something that no one's done before in the festival, and that's incredibly win it back to back. We've had multiple winners, Joey Foster being one of them, Niall Murray as well, and Don McLeod, and Wayne Boyd, so 4 multiple winners. But in terms of back-to-backs, never happened. What might happen, though, is Jamie Sharp making a move for second place. He's looking to the outside to get the switch back on Chris Middlehurst. Just applies the pressure. We'll get a good run here. Creeping alongside on the approach to Drews. Really good run from Jamie Sharp. A little later on the brakes. Finds the apex, and he's through into second place. So his confidence really is up after his first national win at Anglesey a few weeks ago. Jamie really is riding high here. This will be another strong result to push him higher in the championship. He came into the weekend 4th in points, and he'll certainly gain some on Max Etherson, because of course Max will not finish the race, I'm afraid, because we saw his car going off into the tyres. Rory Smith put a lap on Terry Walkingshaw in the number 7 car there, so that's him towards the back. He's one of the other few club class runners. Not taking that wide wet line to stay off the racing park. But now as they come onto the pit straight, Rory Smith will start the final lap of this second Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship race. Ever since he got in front of Alex Walker, he's been able to push through. Walker, meanwhile, still is in 4th place, but he's dropped right back, and he's now being pressured by his teammate Thomas Mills and their ex-teammate Lucas Romanek, who is past the 2 club class runners and is into P6. Here's Rory Smith, who, as we say, was in that battle for the Triple Crown, which is the sub-championship as part of the National Formula Ford season, which only covers Donington Park, Brands Hatch and Silverstone. We've had Donington and Silverstone. Brands Hatch is where it concludes. Rory Smith, I'm sure, is taking one step closer to essentially becoming provisionally our first champion of the 2021 BRSEC season. It's going to be a fight all the way to the flag for second place, but I think Jamie Sharp will have enough to hold off Chris Middlehurst to turn out through Clark Kerr for the final time. But last year's festival winner is going to give himself the best possible preparation for this year's 50th. He punches the air as he picks up race number 2. It is Rory Smith who wins at Brands Hatch in the National Formula 4 Championship. Jamie Sharp with a brilliant second place, and Chris Middlehurst in 3rd. There's Andre Lafond in the sole remaining low-density car. They've got some work to do to get their cars back together again and ready for race number 3 later on this afternoon. It's 4th for Alex Walker after he was leading at some point with quite a margin before. 5th for Thomas Mills, 6th for Lucas Romanek. I'm sure James Oldfield will take a silver lining with that excellent result from towards the back of the grid. 16th he started, so up 10 places. James Tucker 7th, he wins the club class. 8th for Ben Tinkler, 9th for Noel Robinson, and 10th for Megan Gilkis, who recovers well to finish in the top 10 after her brief excursion off the road at Surtees. So there's the top two. That is, of course, also a 1-2 for the BM Racing squad. So Smith and Sharp will take the top two positions. Very happy Andy Brickles, I'm sure. Here's provisional confirmation of the result. Rory Smith then wins the pro class, and overall he takes the victory from Jamie Sharp in second place. Chris Middlehurst takes the final podium spot from Alex Walker, Thomas Mills and Lucas Romanek. James Tucker finishes 7th overall and wins the club class ahead of Ben Tinkler, with Noel Robinson and Melkin Gilkis finishing the overall top 10. Benjamin Cochran comes 11th from Alex Lafond, Paul Tucker and Terry Walkinshaw. And we lost, unfortunately, Max Etterton after he slid off the road on the run out of Druids, and we lost Colin Queen and Joey Foster on the first lap after they both spun off at Surtees.